Hi guys, I previously released a video on making these, but I pinked the edges and asked what you thought the best method for finishing was. It's clear that bound mats are the preference. Thanks to Thelma Lane, Els Chimes and Mary. I'm sorry, I have no idea how to pronounce your last name, and I don't want to get it wrong, so apologies. Anyway, GGM suggested self-binding. I've used that method before for table runners and for quilts in the past, but it just hadn't occurred to me to use it for these. So that's what we'll be doing today. I'm also timing this one again, so we can get a feel for the length of time it takes to make one of these using this particular method. So the only pieces I've measured for this are the wadding, the backing, and the larger blue piece. The other pieces are simply strips leftover fabric from other projects that are cut to around 1 to 1.5 inches wide, and the length is just enough to cover the wadding. So basically anything that's at least 5.5 inches long will work. The wadding is 5.5 by 10.5 inches. The larger blue piece, which will be the mug section, is cut at 6 by 6 inches. And the backing is 7.5 by 12.5 inches. If the backing fabric is directional, make sure that you place it the correct way, as if you're looking at it as a finished product. In this case, I'm not sure it matters with this one, but I'll go with it this way. Sort out the strips into a pleasing look and set them aside so that you can just grab them as you need them. So let's set that timer and get going. Take the backing fabric and place it right side down. Place the wadding on top, being sure it's sitting 1 inch in all the way around. Find roughly the centre and place your first strip right side up. Add a second strip so that it faces the first. Both pieces should be right side together at this point. Sew down that edge using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Backstitch at the beginning and end to reinforce the stitches, and only sew to the edge of the wadding or just before the edge. Don't sew over into that excess fabric, the backing fabric. Open that up and finger press it. Repeat the process, adding additional strips until that side of the mat is completely covered. I should point out, if you want to pin the pieces before moving them to the sewing machine, go ahead and do that. I ran out of strips. I'm pausing here to go see if I have at least one extra piece. I pause because I'm not sure whether it's going to take me 1 minute or 1 hour to find something suitable, so 1 second. Luckily there was one black strip left in my tub of offcuts. It's not quite straight, but it will still work. I love projects that use up scraps that would otherwise be thrown away. So with all those sewn down, take the bigger blue section and place it right side together with the pieces you've already added. Sew down that left hand seam. Open it up, and if you want to quilt a few lines to secure it in place, I actually kind of like this one without the quilting on this side, so I'm going to leave it as it is. Fold that open and finger press the seam again. We need to trim this down now. This little mat is brilliant for ironing, for trimming small pieces, and it takes up such a small amount of space. Fold the backing away from the edges and trim the top to match the wadding. You're better off doing this from the back. Do this all the way around. Here comes the binding. Bear with me while my fingers catch up with my brain. I've not used the self-binding method in about a year. So fold one of the edges of backing fabric over by 1/2 inch. Finger press it, then fold it again over onto the mat. At the first corner, fold the corner up to form a triangle of fabric. Fold the connecting side over by 1/2 inch, and then fold it over the edge again as before. You'll be left with a lovely mitered corner. You'll need to do this in each corner of the mat. With small projects like this, it can be a little bit fiddly, but it works really well and looks great once it's all stitched in place. The best thing about this method is not having to connect two ends of binding. That being said, if that is your preference, take a look at the 9-patch quilt video I did a while back. There's a good technique there for binding, or for joining binding, and it's all done on the sewing machine instead of having to hand sew one side like you do with most binding, which is obviously why I like that method so much. Honestly though, if you take your time with this instead of trying to work to a timer, you'll get some fantastic results. Let's run this forward. Now stitch close to that inner edge all the way around. And that's it. This looks so much better than the pinked version. Thanks for the suggestion, Gigi. So I did that in 16 minutes, give or take a few seconds, which isn't too bad. But if the camera wasn't right in front of me and I wasn't trying to get everything in shot, and often failing at that, I think I could reduce that time a fair bit. As I said in the previous video, these are great for lots of seasons. Just choose appropriate fabrics. So what do you think? Better than the previous one? I think so. How about you? Before I go, I just had to share these pictures sent in by a lovely subscriber of the quilts she made for her grandchildren after she'd watched the rag quilt video that I released a few weeks ago. Absolutely stunning. Thank you so much for sharing. Please consider subscribing to the channel and liking this video. It means a lot and it helps us out so much. Until next time, happy sewing.